I happened to be at a conference in DC last week that had to do with early stage seed and some venture investing. And one of the people that's there was the founder of the Carlyle Group, which is the largest private equity group in the world. And it was really interesting. The founder was talking about raising money and fundraising, and his first fund was $5 million. And in telling his story about how he raised his first fund, he said that he believed that a conversation has a half-life of 3 weeks. And if you know what a half-life means, it's worth half as much after 3 weeks, then 3 weeks later it's worth half of that, half of that, and half of that. To Sharice's point, and I've had this happen as well, when somebody comes and talks to me about a deal as an investor and then doesn't follow up for 6 months. You know, you're really ruining an opportunity. You need to build that relationship. And we're going to talk about how to kind of keep how to keep in touch with your investor group, but I would just keep that in mind, that you really need to react and stay in touch with these people. Don't let it go too long. All right, so let's talk about online platforms. These are really important to those of you who are going to be raising money regionally or nationally. These are tools that most investors use regularly. You also heard of two others during the day. That you heard about PitchBook and you heard about Crunchbase. Those aren't necessarily, I mean, some of you can put your company on some of them are research tools. But the things that I want to really talk to you today about are the first couple, Gust and AngelList. But before I do that, I want to take just a minute on crowdfunding. This isn't quite as hot as it used to be, but I still get the question a lot. Let me just say there are kind of there's one way to look at crowdfunding, that there's equity crowdfunding and non-equity crowdfunding. Equity crowdfunding means you're going to have investors who own a piece of your company through a crowdfunding platform. The Plains Angels, one of the questions you get asked when you apply is, did you take crowdfunding equity capital? If you answer yes, we are done with you. We will not go near you. And I will tell you that I don't know of an angel group or a VC that would do it. It's a nightmare. You have 200 people on your cap table for $500 a piece. They've all got to vote. And every time we want to get something done, we got to go find 200 people. And they're all very non-knowledgeable investors, and they're going to do some really bad things. So please, 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 do not go into equity-based crowdfunding. Non-equity crowdfunding, a la Kickstarter, Indiegogo, whatever, are great marketing tools and a great way to raise some capital. However, let's say you raise a whole bunch of money and what you're giving them is a printed poster. You're going to owe the tax man a lot of money because that's income. They're going to treat it as income. You just sold something. So just please bear in mind that even if you go through one of these non-equity crowdfundings, you're not giving up equity, it's just Kickstarter. There's tax on that money, especially if you don't do your books right and incorporate and charge all expenses off. And I know of a case where somebody did that and they ended up with a huge tax bill. They had no idea. So just be in mind that they're both can be problematic. So let's talk about why you should be online. It is truly your digital resume and identity. If you're not on angel.co, I'm surprised. AngelList. And if you haven't heard about it, get on there. It's a great place for you to look for employees, co-founders. Investors will look for you there. It's a recruiting tool. It is you just got to be there. I'm just going to tell you right now. We'll talk a little bit more about it in a minute. It's also a fundraising tool. I have a couple investments through AngelList. I know Sheldon, I think you did a few through AngelList?
32.
Sheldon's done 32 investments through AngelList. At a summary level, I don't know if we'll talk through that in a minute. I'll go into the details of that in a minute on it. I don't want to get out of line here. It's a single point. These tools are single points of record for all of your documentation. So when you're talking about like Gust, if you apply to the Plains Angels, you will put your information into Gust, gust.com. It's the largest single platform for deal flow management in the angel world in the United States. There are several thousand angels on the platform. And the nice thing about it is, let's say you're an angel investor and I'm an angel investor and he puts his deal out there. He can invite you, he can invite me as separate angels. You can start making notes in your section with your group and adding documents. I can do that with my group and add documents. We can't see each other's stuff. And if he's done with me, he can shut me off, de-invite me and kick me out. but keep you going. So as the entrepreneur, you have a lot of control over what goes on with that data. But if you don't put it out there, a lot of us as groups will go, no, we're just not going to touch it, because it is the process we use. The reason we use these processes is most angel groups, when they're doing their due diligence for just who they're going to invite, we don't get together as a group. We do it over email and phone calls, and we all need a digital platform to keep track of it. And believe me, you do not want to be emailing us documents full of your financial statements and your business plans. Please don't do that. In an unprotected email, you're putting it at huge risk. I always laugh at the people that worry about it getting found on a locked platform like Gust, but feel totally free just to email across the earth on an open system. So please don't worry about that. So specific to Gust, it is a very popular platform also for pitch events. If you're applying to just go to a pitch event, a lot of times the competition for $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever will use Gust as a platform. Necessity for angel networks is just a given. You've got to do it. You control who sees your data, period. You apply to the Plains Angels. If we say no to you, you can immediately rescind our access to the deal. That's expected. So you want to manage who has access to your deal. I also tell you that if you put your profile out there a year ago and then you decide to apply, please update your profile. I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs I have to reach out to and say, your financials are a year old. They don't match up. I had one the other day. The ask that was in AngelList did not match the ask that was in the pitch deck, which also neither one matched the ask that was in the financials. So this is the same rule as the other things. Your numbers have to match. This is the types of things we look at when we decide if we want to invite you to come pitch to us. Again, we're trying to prejudge you. We've got 9 people that have applied, and if you are all in the region we invest in, we're going to look at all 9, and as I'm trying to figure out with Tej and some of the others, who do we invite, who do we put in front of our group of angels? If you're not matching your numbers, if you have an incomplete application, it's very likely we're just going to go not interested. And then I get the phone call, why not? So please be respectful of doing the whole app. It's not trivial. The first time you set up the first time you set up Gust, you should, if you have your pitch deck done, if you have your financials done, and you have your docs in line, you should spend a couple hours on it. But if you haven't done all this, please don't just throw junk out there. Yeah.
What all gets put on there?
Well, every angel group will have a different minimum requirement, but 90% of them will say, your pitch deck, we want to see your slides. And again, these are PDFs. Don't do animation in your slides. Just don't do it. You look like you're 12 years old when you put animation in your slide. I'm just going to tell you that right now to a bunch of angels and VCs. We've seen every kind of animation you've never thought of. You can't put it on Gust. You can't put it on a piece of paper. Don't do it. Financials. Absolutely, 3 years of financials. And don't just put the document in the storage. You have to fill it in to Gust. There's numbers that it asks for. You have to fill it in. Because when you come up for review, the summary in Gust will show us the numbers you typed in.
So the form?
It's a form you fill in. Inside of Gust, they will ask you a series of questions. You have to fill those in. If you don't fill it in, we're going to reject you. It's not that we're mean, nasty people. It's that it's the tool we use. And it's kind of like driving a car. If you want to get to drive a car, you got to go get a driver's license and follow the rules, or you get tossed off. Same thing. Keep it current. As things change, keep your Gust profile current. This is, Sharice uses the word good housekeeping. You need, as a business owner and a startup manager, you've got to keep all these things up to date, which means you don't want to be doing it all the time. So you need that checklist that says, okay, every time I have to change my financials of significance, here's all the things I need to do with that. Because if you've got it on angel.co and you've got it on Gust and you've got it somewhere else digitally and you have it out to 3 potential investors, you've got to make sure everybody knows. Best practices, always upload a video. You're way ahead if I can see a 2-minute video. Way ahead. Now I get to see what you look like pitching. And if you're a pretty good pitch person, that's a good tiebreaker. I'm not quite sure if I want to invite you, Maya, and I see a killer pitch, I'm going to invite you guys. If there's none there, I have nothing to judge on. I said it before, I'll say it again, make sure your financials are the same everywhere. Get somebody that hasn't looked at your deal very much and look it over, because you're going to go blind on your numbers after a while. Understand what pre-money and post-money valuation means when you fill this out. I had a person fill it out in a way that basically said he wanted to sell 100% of his company to us. Okay, he looks like a rookie. Sorry, but figure it out. Review your one-pager. Gust has the ability to create a one-page document. They call it a one-pager, but it's a summary of your deal. You can create it inside of Gust as well. That's what we print out and hand to all of our investors when they're in the room when you're going to be pitching. So print it out and look at it and say, is this really what I want to represent my company? Because then that's all that stuff you put in the form. So the less you fill in, the uglier your company's summary looks. So, and if somebody says we're not interested, uninvite them, get them out. Okay, because they do have access to your information. There are bad actors out there everywhere, both receiving stuff on email and people that are inside Gust. I haven't heard of too many problems inside Gust, but it's just good practice that if I say no to you, you should uninvite me immediately. Just take me out of the deal. I shouldn't be in there.
Do you invite people, or you put it on, everybody has access?
No, when you put it on Angel List, nobody has access. So when you click, if you went to the Plains Angels website and clicked, it says apply here, and it'll take you right to Gust. It'll ask you if you already have a login for Gust. If you do, log in. And it'll say, would you like to invite Plains Angels? Yes. You'll see our questionnaire that we specifically asked for. If you apply to Gopher Angels up in Minnesota at the same time, you'll get their questionnaire as well. But you won't re-enter the data. But nobody will see it until you can mark some of it public, meaning I'm out here, I'm looking for funding for this industry, but other than that, you can't just invite them. Well, you could sit and invite everybody. Believe me, we're going to be really upset with you if you just start inviting everybody. I think Gust makes you do it one at a time for that
Does it
reason.
show a list of who's looking at Gust, or who's...
It shows you the 12 or 14.
invites, you can call them and say, hey, is this research and find out if this fits for them?
They all have summaries, they all have profiles, they all have industries they fit in. So you can within Gust search and say, I need to find somebody who's in the financial services sector. I want to find somebody that invests in IoT-based devices. I want to find somebody that invests in. You can do that. We're going to show you a list of the regional angel groups and the regional seed funds here in a little bit that we've got. And that's a different approach where you're looking in your geographic area. And angels and seed funds tend to invest geographically. As an angel, I can't afford to get on a plane and go to California every week if there's a problem in your company. And I don't have the time, so I want to be close by. Yeah?
Even though we submit that to guests, you will review it before publishing, right?
Publishing.
For others to see our profile.
Yeah, so the only people that see it, so there's several people that are the Plains Angels in the room. When somebody submits a new application, any of the members can see it. But nobody else. Okay, they have to be part of our group. If you're submitting to Plains Angels, the Plains Angels group can see it. Now, I got to be honest with you, almost none of the Plains Angels people go and look and see what's in the new folder. They assume that myself and Tej and a couple others will be taking care of that for them. There's a small group of us that review and edit out those. I get some from outside the country. We don't invest outside the country. I just tell them no, very politely. We get some that are in deal areas that we don't touch. I tell them no very politely. So I do that, if you will, cutting it down factor. It's pretty rare to have a startup here in Iowa we don't say, come on in if they filled out their app. I mean, I can't think of one. So. AngelList is an incredible platform. So Sheldon said he's got 32 investments. I've got a few. Tej has done 15. Here's what AngelList started out to be, and it's evolved to some other things as well. But in essence, well-known investors can go out there and create, set themselves up as a lead investor. So Jason Kalkanis, who's a really famous, would you call him an angel? Yeah, angel investor. He's done thousands of deals, has a fund. And he will say, I'm going to invest $100,000 in Terry's deal over here, and I'm opening up a syndicate of up to 99 investors, the minimum for all you, and we're all accredited investors. This is it's an onerous process to get yourself set up as an accredited investor out there. Every one of the investors can invest a minimum of $2,000, $3,000. I saw one the other day that was the entire Y Combinator class. You could invest in a fund for as little as $9,000 that was going to spread across all the Y Combinator class this year. For an investor, you heard me talking earlier about the odds in angel investing. If I take that $100,000 and spread it across 35 deals, I'm much more likely to come out on head ahead that if I'm spreading it over 2 deals, 3 deals, 4 deals. I've invested 4 times. 2 went out. 1, I have no idea what's going on, and I just found out one of them had a 35 times increase in valuation. 35x. Now, I can't take the money because they're only going to sell off 10% of it, so I get to take off like 3 times the money. It was only $1,000 to begin with, so it isn't going to do anything to change my world. But the point being, look what happened inside 4 deals. So I got almost 4K back on my 4 deals. I still own 90% of one of the deals. And it just raised a huge round. Great. Next 10 may go bad. The point is, I'm going to make that decision with, okay, Sheldon, I'll pick on you. How long on average do you spend looking at a deal before you make an investment decision?
This is an embarrassing answer. And as my attorney's in the room and some other people, and I probably spend less than 15 minutes.
Yeah, me too.
But I mean, it's typically a $2,000 to $5,000 decision.
It is, and here's why. We're following a strong leader. If Jason Kalkanis, or Kalkanis, however you say his name, is in for 50K, and his fund's done the diligence on it, and I like the deal, and I like the looks of the people running it, and I like the market, I'm in. That's why it works. Okay, it's a 15, 20-minute decision for the average angel because it's got a lead investor. When Sharice was talking earlier about a lead investor, that's the power of a lead. But it is an incredibly powerful platform. And you can go out there as entrepreneurs and say, IoT. So Tom over here is borderline in the IoT space or around the IoT space, could go out and look for angels and VC funds and seed funds that are out on AngelList and look for one that's in IoT and see if they want to do his deal. Now, it's not going to be a huge amount of money, but I've seen up to $1 million done on AngelList, where the lead did $250,000 and the minimums were, 25, 50K. They were much bigger. But again, power of the lead. Well, the head of Google Labs for a while was running as a lead out there. There's some really, really sharp women and men out there running as leads. So it's incredibly popular. It is kind of the de facto site for the more formal investing world. Yeah.
When you have a company that you invest in that doesn't do well, and you can see that it's going to lose.
Yeah.
When you lose your investments,
Yeah.
and say I have a 25% investment in that myself, do you dissolve that company and divide it before it goes completely under? Do you just take that loss?
I take the loss.
Do I have to put up like collateral as something else and you take
Oh,
that?
as the company, as the startup company, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so if your lawyer did it right, when you dissolve the company, your personal situation of whether you had to put collateral up has nothing to do with the equity investment. No, I don't know of any equity investors asking the entrepreneur to put up their own collateral. That collateralized investment is debt. It's you went to a banker, you went to a finance company, you went to a lender. Equity investing is I'm in it with you. If we go down, we all go down together. Is that, how'd I do, Chris?
Yeah.
You asked a lawyer question and I
If
didn't.
you're buying equity and somebody wants you to collateralize it, just tell them no.
Walk away. Yeah, that's not a, yeah. Usually, these are companies that have no assets. Let's face it, they're software companies. You can't resell the software. If it didn't work, it didn't work. And a year from now, the software will be out of date anyway. So, yeah, we all just write it off.
Mike, this is equity then? Like I said earlier, that not to be crowdfunding.
This is not crowdfunding. This is equity investing. This is angel level investing, seed level investing.
That's what, yeah, and you have crowdfunding after that, that's why.
It's an accredited crowdfunding. Okay, you're right. Thank you for correcting that. Accredited investors. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I apologize. I didn't look at my slide close enough today. This is the problem when I use slides over. They're accredited investors, and Chris can give you what that means, but it basically means that by being accredited, we are, as accredited investors, acceptable when the next round is going to be a VC fund. The reason this works so well is let's say your company took equity this way, and Jason Kalkanis' fund invested in you, there would only be one line on your cap table. It would say Jason Kalkanis AngelList Fund number 6. And it would say $632,000. Because he's the only one with a vote. Sheldon and I have no vote. We are completely passive in these deals. I'm lucky to get an email on some of them. You might not hear from these people for 2 years, which always makes us mad. But the point being, it's extremely friendly. We're all accredited investors under the law. It's really clean on your cap table. If a VC is investing in A round and he says, oh, you got Kalkanis' fund for 632, great job. Clean. Because in an angel world, your average investment's going to be 25 or 50, maybe 100. So if you can get one of these, it's actually even cleaner.
So the earlier point was unaccredited
Yeah,
crowdfunding.
I have to clean that up.
Okay.
I need to make a note. Sharice, would you make a note so I will clean that slide up? There's always one, no matter how many times we do this. Good catch. I like that. So we talked about this is also a recruiting and fundraising tool. It's also a place to look for competition. So when Sharice was talking about competition, Crunchbase, AngelList, Gust are all great places to find all your competitors. And I have had a lot of cases where people come and say there's no competition. I'm the only one in the market doing this. And I had one say that to me one day, and he was being rather arrogant about it. I said, just a second. And I pulled up AngelList, and I typed his description of his company in, and I pulled up 18 companies, turned around, and that was just the first page, and said, who are these people? We as investors know where to go looking for these, so you need to look too. And you don't have to list them all, just go find the ones that are the closest to what you do. And if they're not the closest, then if somebody says, why aren't they on there? Say, well, when I was doing my check, they didn't do the same thing. I'd be happy to look again, but these were the ones that were closest to what I do, that are targeting the same market. So keep your profile really simple on AngelList. This is not Gust. You're not disclosing everything to the world. This is a much more public environment. Reporting needs to be frequent when you're out here. Keep it fresh. Videos are an absolute necessity. It is a social network. People connect with me on there, especially if I'm advising them, where I'm an advisor to them. You'll find that people do connect on it. And ensure your connections are documented as to who they are. Just be honest about who they are, ask permission, all those things. Again, good place to look for talent. A lot of people that are in between startups are out here looking for their next startup gig. This is why investors love it. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but they like it because they can connect, find relevant syndicates. So they find the people that they want to tag along with. The due diligence may be limited, but it could be a lot of deal flow for early on. And it's heavily standardized. So it's a lot of investors really like being on this platform. This is the process. We kind of talked through this already, but they create and lead the fund, and then we can have up to 98 members to fill the round. Closes super quick. So that's the other thing. When Sheldon and I get an email that says Jason's got a deal, we got what, 3 days? On average, 3 days. And sometimes if you don't act in the first 24 hours, you're closed out, because they filled the first 98 slots in 12 hours. So we kind of have to be on our hustle. So if you can get into this, it moves really, really quick.
But that's after the lead investor has
Done their diligence.
done the diligence, says, yes, I'm investing, time's up and up.
Right.
So there's that 3-month process or 6 months. Or
With these people, it
prior.
wouldn't be that fast, or it wouldn't be that slow. I mean, these kinds of people are going to go from no to yes in about 8 weeks, from 0 to yes, because they're doing small deals. They're not huge rounds. This is seed level investing, and they're pros. There's only so much to look at in a seed round. There's only so much to do diligence on. So in most of those cases, a lot of them, they'll have known about you before you're ready to raise. If you're, again, to Teresa's earlier point, you should be talking to these people 6 months before you want to raise, and getting to know them and finding out what they look for and find out what their process is. But yes, the actual filling the rest of the round happens very quickly. The first part's still going to take time. Post-investment, I wish. AngelList is great about doing the K1s for the investors. They can only do so much to get the entrepreneurs to send in reports. So the entrepreneurs, I can't tell you, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that I would never invest again simply because they won't talk to us. They just go dark on us. Okay, I got your money, I'm never talking to you again. I hope this is your only deal. Just don't come back, you know? And there really is no control on exits and future rounds for the investor side. For you guys, if it brings in money during the round you're doing, it's very clean, the legal's done correctly. I think it's extremely safe for the entrepreneur. Questions on these digital platforms? Yeah.
On the Angels List, when you put out your company and your idea and hopes to get other people involved or investors, do you find, or have ever found, that people people steal other people's ideas, or are they getting an idea and?
Yeah, so let's address that. Yeah, so the whole idea of stealing each other's ideas. I think what most of us would tell you is an idea is about 3% of what it takes to succeed. The best thing I ever heard somebody say was 90% of the people on this earth are dead, dumb, lazy. They're not going to do anything with it anyway. Okay? That's being rude, but they're lazy. They're not going to work. An idea isn't going to make money. It has almost nothing to do with having a product. And a product has almost nothing to do with having a company that works. It is, if your idea is that good and that's stealable, that's immediately the market's going to be dominated by others coming into it, then you probably shouldn't be doing it in the first place. And to be honest, I know a lot of people say, oh, that's a great idea, I'll go try it too, and 2 weeks later they've given up and moved on. Most good startup people, it isn't about the idea, it's about the problem being solved. You may point out a problem to someone and you may be trying to solve it, and somebody else says, I have another idea how to solve it. But that's going to happen the day you start selling your product anyway. And if there's competitors already in the market, they're already trying to solve that problem too. You're just trying to find a new way. So honestly, I have very rarely seen a time where someone should keep their idea private. Now, if you're doing intellectual property, if you're patenting a truly interesting invention, or if there's a process you have on how you do it, keep that private and secret. A lot of the people I work with on a day-to-day basis, I literally tell them, I really don't want to know much about how your product works. I really don't care. What I care about is the market you address, what the problem is you're solving, what's that worth to somebody to have that problem solved, because that's the business part. And what's inside your black box about how it does it, I'm assuming you're really good at that already.